right, friends, we are live on a very interesting day in world history as it looks like Palestine and Israel are going to war more than they usually are at war. And in this context, things are changing in Russia. Today's big topic is going to be Putin's massive speech that he had at the Valdai Club. We'll talk about that coming up real soon. We can get into some other topics and questions and calls and all that other stuff with you soon after this. That is not a problem. But for now, if I can open this window. Why isn't it opening? Open! There we go. Now it's opening. See, right before this thing started, I said everything was working perfectly. The second I try to make this one window bigger, it doesn't work. See, that's the thing. You start recording, and everything gets screwed up. But anyways, friends, so today on the agenda, we're going to talk about the Valdai speech. We might talk some Israel-Palestine. And then we might take some calls, maybe talk American Village, but I might cut that off into a second stream because some of those questions and calls are starting to become a little bit cyclical, and I'm afraid they might bore people on YouTube. Because surprisingly, some of you guys really like the sound of my voice or my opinions, and a lot of these live streams actually get a couple thousand views, which I think is pretty darn good for a strange man who lives in the woods and has a big foam background behind him, so that's pretty awesome. Anyways, let me then get on the screen here. And where is it? And remember, yeah, about comments. Remember, if you comment pretty much anywhere on Tim Kirby Hardcore on the actual Telegram channel, it will basically all the questions and whatever you say will come up, and I'll see it on screen, and it'll be amazing. It kind of doesn't even really matter where you comment, so go nuts with that. Anyways, let me get open then Putin's big speech. So we're going to be looking at a breakdown by our good buddy Joaquin Flores, who summed up the speech, and I'm going to grab his summary because we're friends, and I don't think he'll be opposed, especially if I give a plug. If you like what I do, you probably like what Joaquin Flores does at New Resistance. Awesome channel, awesome energy, and I have to be honest, he has more dedication than I do. So everyone should be subscribed to him and subscribed to me. It should be just automatic. There should be some sort of function within Telegram to make that happen. But anyways, our buddy Joaquin broke down Putin's speech into 6 points. However, I think in a lot of these points, we have a lot of interesting context to talk about. Now, the Valdai Club itself, what is this? It is something that is changing. Now, when I first came to Russia, the Valdai Club was essentially interpreted to be kind of like a Russian, maybe we could say Davos, maybe we could say Bilderberg, almost like the meeting where Putin has to sort of address like Russia's liberal and financial intelligentsia. So the thing about this speech that's important to note is just how super crazy patriotic and very pro-Russian a lot of these things sound very multipolar. When I came to Russia first and started getting interested in all this political stuff, Valdai from its very beginning was always considered like the liberal conference, the conference where Putin talks to the liberals, be they financial, be they in the entertainment industry, be they part of the globalist machine, this, that, or the other. So in that context, you can definitely see that the Overton window is very liquidy and shape-changey, much like everyone's favorite element, gallium. Hold it long enough in your hand, and it turns to liquid. Gallium. That is our position on the periodic table of elements of the day. Who doesn't love some gallium? But anyways, point number 1 from this breakdown by Mr. Flores. Barrier-free environment. No one should ever try to erect artificial barriers to people's communication. Ooh, this is a very nuanced point. This is one of these points that I think a lot of people, if they want to poo-poo on Putin, they just might, because it sounds very globalist. No one should ever erect artificial barriers to stop people's, but he says communication. Isn't that different? So that basically is sort of saying that, like, well, we can live in a globalized multipolar world. That globalized multipolar world can have plenty of physical barriers and visa barriers and all that stuff. But let's keep the lines of communication open. Maybe some of you guys don't know, but as of like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, this was before the war started, so I guess maybe even more, maybe 4 years ago, something around there. It seems as though there might be some sort of unspoken agreement with China about the media, because as you probably know, there is the Great Firewall of China, and although it's not crazy hard to get information from outside of China like it would be in, say, North Korea, they have a lot of restrictions. But Russian media tends to make it over the Great Firewall and vice versa. So, like, in theory, although I really don't see it very often, that whole, like, was it GCTV? Some kind of Chinese television. They have a gold logo. It's very pretty. It's a square like RT, but golden. They're here, and vice versa. There is an RT China, for example. I think one of the main things about that is a sort of unspoken, or perhaps, who knows, maybe even between the people in power, maybe there's a spoken agreement, where generally the RT side of things kind of just talks about Russia in Chinese, and it seems like the Chinese side generally kind of talks about China in Chinese. So you see how there's a kind of a little bit of a deal there where we can't really use our foreign media as some sort of negative like information weapon if we kind of talk about ourselves. Because if you look at the Western media when it talks about Russia, which is now for the most part blocked or banned, but not all of it. I can open Politico right now. In fact, I think the times are changing. I think they may even have brought back BBC. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. BBC was gone for a while. No, BBC's dead. Can we get Politico? I think we can. Can we get Politico? Yes. So, for example, Politico is yes, BBC is no. So that's kind of a interesting little nuance there. But anyways, the Western media tends to have has always really, for the most part, although it of course talks about itself and happenings in the West, tends to have just have, you know, after years and years of article about how Russia's collapsing, everything in Russia's awful, Putin's awful, everything's horrible, blah, 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 blah. So I think with the Chinese, there's some sort of agreement about that. But anyways, it goes back to this key point that Putin made, that we need to keep these sort of dialogues of communication open, maybe with some nudge, nudge, wink, wink, backdoor kind of deals in terms of how we're going to engage in this. But I think that that's a very good sort of multipolar statement, that we're not going to completely bunker ourselves in, but we can definitely protect our borders and really restrict access to our countries, given that sort of context. So here we go. And the second point kind of ties into this thing. Point number 2 from Putin's Valdai speech, according to Mr. Flores, the diversity, let's just say it the Deep South, that diversity of the world should be preserved and consolidated, and the imposition of alien rules should be prohibited. Now, that's the kind of talk that people who are conservative like to hear. That the diversity of the world should be preserved, as in, stay where you're at. This is very Russian way of thinking. If you have your oblast, I have my oblast. You sit there, I sit there. We live together in one country. Everything okay. That's a very Russian solution to a problem right there. Maybe that might not be applicable everywhere, but that is definitely what I think a lot of people around the world want, where in order to maintain the diversity of the world, we actually have to have different cultures that have slightly different mentalities and different traditions and all this other stuff. So extremely anti-globalist there, and especially about the imposition of alien rules. Trust me, guys, if there's anything people in Russian politics understood, it was that after World War II, politics here, that after World War II, it was probably not the best idea, or, well, Russia kind of sees it as being forced into the Cold War, but didn't really work out, having to protect the entire Eastern Bloc, a lot of whom didn't really want to be that allied with Russia deep down, and, help the North Koreans, help the Vietnamese, help the Cubans, help this, help that. And then, long story short, one of the key reasons why the Soviet Union lost the Cold War is they didn't have the finances for it. And, so this about alien rules. Trust me, people in Russia understand that subjecting other people to Russianness as it is today is pointless and is actually very counterproductive, as we see every time the West continues to bring its I was going to say democracy, but its thing that it calls democracy and tries to shove it down everyone's throat with a bayonet. It only makes people resist it more and hate it. So there you go. No smashing alien rules onto other people. That is fantastic. Absolutely the kind of stuff we want to hear. And again, in the context of what was sort of created as a think tank to be sort of almost liberal, or maybe as a think tank to maybe negotiate with the globalists in Russia, the times, they have changed. Point number 3 from this amazing breakdown here. I'm just going to check to see if everything's working. Oh my gosh, it is. All right, that's a good thing. Point number 3 is that the maximum is to have maximum representativeness. Or representativeness. I probably represent representativeness, but I kind of like representativeness better. I don't know. Anyways, maximum representation. No one should decide for or on behalf of others. Decisions should be taken collectively. So that's another pretty good one, but that's also very much about sort of the structure of this whole multipolar world, where there's going to be a lot more opinions. There's not too much to really say about that, but yeah, essentially very against unilateral action by a certain global hegemon. That makes sense. Not too much to say about that one. Point number 4, universal security and lasting peace built on respect for the interests of both large and small countries. The world must be freed from bloc thinking and colonial approaches. And as you see from organizations like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the BRICS and some others, the new sort of way of doing things is it's more almost like they're creating these organizations as sort of more like a platform for discussion rather than making them some sort of forced alliance. Because again, the alliances of the Cold War definitely didn't work out in everyone's interest. The Warsaw Pact for countries were forced to do a lot of things they didn't really ultimately want to do. And Moscow was forced to protect them. And now, as we see with NATO, we get in this bizarre situation where a lot of NATO is against the war, but seems helpless to do anything about it. So essentially, he's kind of linking the structure of creating political blocs to a colonial approach, because obviously, if you think about NATO, I mean, it's really the U.S. It's really America's organization, and this is what tends to happen when there's only one powerful nation within an organization. Same thing with the Warsaw Pact, or to be honest, even with the Axis powers, because really Germany was the one who started World War II. Of course, well, some people could say the Japanese definitely were voluntarily into it against the United States. Maybe that's a bad example then. But in terms of Italy, yeah, Italy, I watched a very interesting documentary that the Italians were really, really extremely unready for war. And they even seemed to be aware of that, but they kind of got stuck going in. So Italy in World War II could be a good example of that. That's one of the reasons also why they turned on Mussolini pretty quick. A lot of the population, because they were kind of just like, it was almost sort of known on the streets that this was not going to go well. So, yeah. Anyways, are there any questions? There seems to be someone writing. What would happen if Russia fought in the place of Palestine? Probably World War III. What would be the point of that? Why would Russia fight in the place of Palestine? That would really violate and be contradictory to everything that Russia's been trying to do over the last 30 years. I mean, someone wants to talk. We'll take your call. Hold on. We'll take your call. We'll get back to the message. Calls take priority. Hello there. Natalia wants to speak. Hello.
Hi, Tim.
Hi.
Very interesting what you just were sharing. But I guess I wanted to add with regards to perhaps other listeners haven't been in the loop regarding Germany's start in World War II. I'm not sure if you may have heard of the author Anthony Sutton. and the book is called
That's familiar.
Wall Street and the Bolsheviks.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, essentially, the financing of Germany was coming from both England and the United States, and it happened to be that Hitler was that guy who was chosen sort of as appointee to run the thing, but essentially, the World War II was started by the U.S.
Well, yeah,
If you
that's a very common one. Hold on,
draft.
I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna pause you because I'll bring you back. Don't worry. After I'm done talking, it's just I can't deal with the background noises. They drive me nuts. But I'll put for our international guests who don't live in Russia. There is a very strong belief that Natalia just expressed within Russia that ultimately Hitler was financed. She mentioned Wall Street, but I usually hear generally through London. It doesn't really matter that Hitler was essentially a creation of foreign powers. We all know that Japan was put under some hefty sanctions, and people think that in a lot of ways, well, people, not just people, but people you might respect, like I believe Colonel McGregor mentioned something about this, that the Japanese, due to sanctions and sort of being egged on by Roosevelt, sorry I'm saying it the Russian way, Roosevelt, were sort of poked into starting World War II. About the Hitler was financed by the West, there's a lot of, if you look back to even a lot of memes about all the companies that really invested into 1930s Germany hardcore, be they Coca-Cola or Ford or whoever. A lot of investment into that. Also, before World War II, a lot of investment into the Soviet Union. In fact, we could actually thank the American auto industry for creating the Soviet auto industry. So there was definitely a sort of flow. But the question is, was this all, if you sort of look at the grand scheme of things? When it comes to Japan, we have sanctions. And the sanctions were a direct action taken by the U.S. government to put that pressure down on Japan. Of course, the Germans were under the treaty of, would that be Versailles? Or is Versailles the treaty they signed in 1871? Oh no, brain not working. What ended World War One? Whatever. The treaty they signed after World War One, which I might be mixing up with the treaty that the Prussians had to sign after the Franco-Prussian War, that put a lot of restrictions on them and created a lot of the hard times in the 1920s. So there was a little bit of that official action. But when you get into stuff like, where's Coca-Cola going? Where is Ford going? And a lot of these sort of inner business things, I don't think you can really make the case that it's all part of some sort of controlled network of magical lizard people who organized all of that. And ultimately, and again, I've mentioned him before, if you guys are interested, look up the books of author Nikolai Starikov, because Natalia's opinion is really in line with that guy's, and he lays it out in books that many of which are translated. So Nikolai Starikov, you should look him up. But ultimately, where I disagree with Nikolai and Natalia here is that there was no gun to Hitler's back. There was no... it's a sort of fallacy that I think a lot of people get into when they think of politics, is that human beings are sort of like computer programs, or, I don't know, automatons or robots or something, and that if Hitler got financing and help from London or Washington, then he must have started war because they wanted it. Just because someone gives you something doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to keep up your end of a bargain. Especially when your life might be on the line. I guess you could make the argument that they could sort of sense that he was very narcissistic and egotistical, and he'd have an irrational optimism towards the war. But again, that's really pushing it. So I am not a personal believer that the Germans started World War II because of some sort of secret obligations. I just don't think that's the case. Anyways, Natalia, you're back. Sorry, I just wanted to express that without any background noise. Hello. Was that a satisfying answer for you, or was that terrible? Was it hot garbage? You let me know.
No. I mean, I get your point. Obviously, there was no gun to his back. But another author beyond Starikov and Sutton that I brought up is Katasonov. You may know him.
Yeah,
right?
I've met him. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I was reading an article that was posted a number of years ago on Voltaire Network. You know, the Voltaire Network,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that is run by the gentleman from France who has lived in Syria for a while and wrote a bunch of books. But essentially, in Karasonov's summary, it really mimics what Sutton, the English author, wrote about heavy-duty financing, and obviously financing in USSR as well. When Bolsheviks came to power, it was on both ends. So essentially, the US was financing both the whites and the reds.
Okay.
And then, as the reds started winning, oh, okay, so we'll keep up with the reds. So I feel like, despite the fact, right, that you can sort of not follow the obligations and so forth. If we bring up perhaps more recent history, it does seem, right, the country who has given something like the US to some country in the world wants stuff back, right? So, and how it is, happening, we saw examples, right, with Libya. Oh, they wanted the dictator, quote unquote, down, and,
Yeah,
all
but
that.
Gaddafi's a good example of he didn't do exactly what he was told. So they killed him, yeah, but he didn't do what he was told.
Exactly, red. But imagine Hitler. Do you think it would have been different for him?
Well, yeah. Well,
right?
again, if we're going to get into this whole
don't think
conspiracy
so.
where
Right.
you can just invest into anything, the United States also funded the hell out of Saddam Hussein to counter the Iranians. So, like a robot, Saddam Hussein should have done absolutely everything they said when they said, without any sort of divergence from any plan, and that wasn't really the case. So again, it's this thing where I think people really attribute a sort of hive mind or this very long range, like A to B to C to D planning to governments, which are large bodies of people, or to various different elites with their wealth, where I think it's a lot more easier to attribute it just to pure financial gain in the moment. For example, another thing that would be good, I'm going to mute you, but I'll bring you back. Let's look at the Maxim machine gun, which to an extent is what my son is named after. Now, Maxim, when he made the machine gun, it saw a lot of use across World War I in various different countries. Why? Because he sold it to everyone, because he wanted to make money. It's a little bit easier with this one because he was one person and he never said anything about having any particular ideology. And so you could, if you want to, you could create some sort of weird conspiracy in your mind that since the Bolsheviks used the Maxim machine gun, it was secretly because Hiram Maxim wanted to prop up communism in order this, that, and that. Now, he just wanted to make money. He had an invention, a military invention, and all he cared about was money. Ford cared about money. Of course, Ford had a little bit of an ideological side to him, but ultimately it was about that cash. Like when the Bolsheviks brought in a lot of American engineers to sort of build up Russian industry. The ads they sort of put out, or the means they attracted these people, were pure financial. It wasn't like they were attracting the red youth of America to come. It was about the money. So I don't know. I think you're really attributing. You're giving humanity too much credit. Again, you're back on the air. If you have anything else to say, you're giving humanity way too much credit that we are so brilliant in our long-range thinking and organization and this, that, and the other. I think messiness is a good answer to explain why human history is the way it is.
No, I don't think I was adding that. In fact, and then again, I strongly recommend to you.
Oh, could you say that again? We lost you. We lost you. Hold on. We lost you. Could you say that again? One more time.
Yes. Sorry about that. I strongly suggest your listeners to check out that Sutton's book, and that's exactly it. Mimics what you just said. So the financing.
Okay. I'm sorry, Natalia. Your internet has died. Your internet chose to commit suicide. Sorry, got to move on. I don't know, something happened with the connection. Your connection was brilliant before, but now it is. So we're gonna have to move on. But thank you for calling in and providing some counterpoints. Everyone is free to argue with me, but the Hitler had to version of history is something I haven't been convinced of. Maybe I'm missing something, but after reading like 2 books on the subject, I'm not convinced. So anyways, we went going back to the questions we had was what would happen if Russia fought in the place of Palestine? That would be stupid. That would violate the way that Russia does its foreign policy. Now perhaps help Iran, who would help the Palestinians? That's another issue. Sam, how realistic is monarchy in Russia for the 10 to 30 year future? I could say this, that if we were to listen to brilliant billionaire genius Konstantin Malafeyev, he said that no one was able to see communism coming even a year before it happened. No one was able to see the 90s capitalism coming even a year before it happened. Monarchy could happen tomorrow. That's not a quote, but he wrote an article that basically said that. So that's his opinion. And with he being sort of the leading monarchist in Russia, he might know about that. So, yeah, but the problem is, my friends, is that Putin has 2 daughters, neither of whom are interested in politics. And I would really, really, really not like it if we brought back a monarchy that was hereditary. I think that's one of the real problems with monarchy. It's that whole your kids have to be monarchs thing. That's a real problem because talent often skips a generation. And also, as they say in Russian, the grandsons of great men are traitors. In addition, also, the current people who would be the would be like the woman who would be like the tsaritsa or whatever, or would it be tsarevna? Or would that be tsaritsa is the adult. Tsarevna would be the daughter, like the princess. But whatever. The woman who would take over, you know, they have accents, like her and her husband. I mean, they have foreign accents. They've been outside of Russia so long that they speak Russian kind of weird, and they're both obese, and they're not particularly popular within Russia. So that's another huge barrier. They don't have the marketability. So, another question. Russia was ruled before what? Okay. Let's see. Anything else? Faced with annihilation. I'm really going to... Okay, man. Alright, Iran will help her. Okay. Yeah. Alright, so anyways, now people are getting into arguments amongst themselves. That's fantastic. Let's get back to our main topic here, which is about... where's that? Saved messages. Which is about Mr. Flores' breakdown of Putin's big Valdai speech. So we're going to cover, again, let's see, point number 4, universal security and lasting peace built in respect for the interests of both large and small countries. The world must be freed from bloc thinking and colonial approaches. I think we just talked about that. And as we just mentioned, World War I and World War II, which is definitely bloc thinking, which got us into a lot of trouble. That definitely sort of rings true there. So the elimination of these blocks as an element of geopolitics and thinking more in terms of great civilizations is probably the way to go. 5, justice for all, no exploitation of some by others, universal access to the benefits of civilization. I'm not quite sure what he means by that, but I think it could mean that it's time to start spreading the wealth around a little bit more evenly, a sort of anti-colonial statement. I'm sure a lot of our friends in South America and Africa and maybe even Southern Asia might want to see that. So, universal access to the benefits of civilization. Interesting. That's a little bit of coded language there. I'm not quite sure. Point number 6, which is our last point before we maybe move on to something else. Equality. No one should be subordinate, dependent, or dependent on stronger neighbors or partners. And that's going to be a problem because as long as the UN is around, the UN Security Council is made up of the victors of World War II. And the Security Council has a heck of a lot of power the way the organization's made up. So this one might be a little bit of hypocrisy. Unless the UN could be like completely dissolved and something new could be brought up. When it comes to sort of international dealings, pure equality is far away because the UN structure was not designed for it. It was designed to sort of almost be like a group of noble shepherds overseeing the herd. through their Security Council. So, yeah, but a lack of the need to be subordinate or dependent on stronger neighbors is part of it. But that also really could be, a lot of this could also be maybe coded language for one of the big concepts of a multipolar world is that smaller countries that don't really need to exist should be absorbed into the greater civilizations. So rather than being some sort of weird, like, buffer state, which has no reason to exist, that a lot of these countries should be absorbed into their greater civilizational sort of space there. You know what I mean? Like Guatemala borders Mexico or something, but does it really, really need to exist? You know, kind of one of those bigger philosophical questions when it was just created by colonizers drawing lines on a chalkboard. So, anyways, we've got a couple more comments there. If someone wants to call in, now would be a fantastic time to call in. Absolutely fantastic. Let's see, we've got some new comments. Maybe Russia will send its troops into Palestine. No, they won't. If Russia is one of the richest nations, why don't they increase income for the lower and mid-income ranges? Because that's an interesting question, but we are a capitalist country. How would that work out? We don't know. When we have a system of private, free enterprise and all that, how is Russia, in quotes, as one, again, we're thinking of things in terms of a hive-minded entity, how are they going to increase the salaries of lower and middle income ranges of people who work in the private sector? How's that going to happen? I can say that the government salaries that a lot of people get are shockingly low. That's something the government could control or consider or think about, but the government is not the main employer in Russia, despite what you've heard, especially from communism. So, yeah, it's a matter of profitability. And furthermore, even the things within the government, like the railroad is weird because it's kind of like a governmental corporation that runs it. But again, the railroad has to stay afloat, okay? It has to stay financially solvent. Is that the term? I think it is. It might be. Who cares? So they want to maintain their solvency. They want to be lovely and liquidy and be able to continue to exist in the future. Well, what if the trains operate with a pretty thin profit margin? See, I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of the big train company there, and I wouldn't be surprised if they try to keep it a secret for various reasons. But, if they can only pay the people who work on the trains or work on the railroads themselves, fixing them, maybe the payments are already maxed out. Maybe that's just the modern financials of the way things are. I'm not sure. Of course, if I ran the National Railroad Company, I would do my best to maximize the cut that labor gets due to my background as being the progeny of a lot of people who worked with their hands. But you can't really control that. And in fact, this question was from Chantel. In fact, I would say what the government really did is, especially the program which was probably created by Mr. Mishustin, who is now our prime minister here, the tax man, as he's known. What he did is he created that whole program of being self-employed, where you download the app on your phone, you kind of link it to your bank account, and you can just, as long as you're making, what does it wind up being? 2,400,000 rubles when the program opened a year, something like that. But a pretty decent middle class salary. As long as you make that or less, you can just all pump it through your individual or your self-employment status, and you pay 4% taxes via your telephone. No IRS, no declarations, no nothing. So if we look at Russian labor law and the way things work, it is very, very much stacked to this idea of you work for yourself. Go work for yourself. Don't be an employee. Everything works out much better if you work for yourself in Russia. And that seems to be partially by design and partially by the design of Mr. Mishustin. Oh, if people want to talk, Yasmin is next because I've never talked to you before. Yasmin, or maybe I have, I don't know, but your name seems unfamiliar. Yasmin, hello.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. My first time, obviously. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I've been following your YouTube channel. Everything is really amazing content. Thank you.
Oh, really?
Had
I'm glad you think so,
one.
because it's mostly just me and this camera. So thank you very much.
It's really, really amazing. Yeah. I had a number of questions, but I'll just ask one and kind of pass the baton. My question was with like the increasing sort of multipolar world order, prosperity, hopefully optimism inside Russia. Like if as a person, hypothetically, let's say a person was a middle class person in Russia with like an extra 10 grand lying around, how do you think would they invest it inside Russia? Is there like a stock, Russian sovereign wealth fund, index fund, or
Oh.
something like that that they utilize?
Oh, okay. So let me get then mute you here again, not because you're a bad person, but because the background noises destroy my mind. So, what do Russian people do when they have an extra $10,000? That is a great question. I've never gotten that question before. So, if I had them, this is the thing. I need to buy one of those 30,000 ruble freaking things where you have the buttons so you can make sound effects, because we need some sort of like amazing sound effect. It is a day of triumph, a truly unique question, and I'm thrilled. So, and that was not sarcasm, so please forgive me. I have that sort of Cleveland way of speaking where I always sound sarcastic, even when I'm not. But about what do Russians do? Extra $10,000, blow it on real estate. That is what Russians do. They blow it on real estate. Like, if you look at any Russian who has a decent amount of money, well, most Russians, to be honest, when they have money, just blow it in general. And this has to do with a lot of the sort of Russian way of lifestyle, of kind of living in the moment. So Russians are not super good with their money, but the people who are good with their money, they immediately dump it into real estate, and that's why there's so much construction in Russia, even around Moscow, even not around Moscow, and that's why also when you see, you travel around the country, you'll go to these weird, like semi-deserted villages, new house. Why? Because they had the money, blew it. And that's really what most people do here. And in fact, whereas in Russia, we've talked about before, but because they got rid of Binance is in a weird flux, it's like changing over. I wanted to help you guys buy gold, but it's turning into a nightmare, and I just don't have the time to deal with it quite yet, especially with the American Village. I'm going to save my energy for researching financial BS for the American Village. We'll deal with gold and other stuff later. But like I mentioned, it's always surprising how little Russians like invest in, say, precious metals when it's so easy here. It is so easy, and there's like no restrictions on it. You would think that people would go nuts over it from an American perspective, but they really don't. Very few people engage in it, even though it's super easy, super legal, and very affordable. They don't. Do people invest in the stock market? Not really. The people who play the Russian stock market are generally people who are already sort of ultra rich. You don't see, like in America, someone might have some kind of like average people have like a stock portfolio. You really don't see that in Russia. Maybe a little bit with like crypto. I think crypto is more of like a middle class Russian kind of thing. I can see that. But ultimately, when you're in Russia and you get money, the absolute best thing that is best in terms of what people do, the people who I know who are, let's just say, more successful, more responsible, have a better future, they all just maximize real estate purchases. Just the second you get the money for a down payment on something, buy something. And then, pay it off and try to pay it off as quickly as you can. And so in terms of that, I'm very Russian because every time I've had 1,000,000 rubles, I've blown it on real estate immediately. And that's why I have real estate. So there you go. That's how people do things generally in Russia. Because I'll tell you one thing. Elderly people who have multiple pieces of real estate do very well living off the rent from them. Elderly people who have no kids especially and don't own real estate, there are those tragic scenes you'll see in a BBC documentary about Russia. So anyways, Yasmin, was that a good answer? Did that suit you there?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, very good. Okay, one more satisfied customer. Someone had their hand up and yet they vanished. Was it Anne? Anne, did you want to talk? Hello. Anne is coming back. Back with a vengeance. Hello. I don't hear you. I should, but I don't. Anne, are you there? Is something on your end muted? If you're on a telephone, this should be easy. Well, anyways, Yasmin wants to speak again, and Anne does not. We'll get back to you, Anne, if you want to talk. Yasmin, you're back on. Was there something you wanted to add?
I thought I might just jump on the chance while she's muted.
Sure.
So my question was, have you ever heard, other than like people who have YouTube channels and are doing sort of counter regime media, like perhaps like yourself, like people that went to Russia, had a job or lived there or bought land there, when they come back to the US, do they have problems if they were just like a normal citizen not involved with media?
Oh, okay. Well, then here, let me tell you that, well, here's the problem. There's a thing called the war in Ukraine. Before the war in Ukraine, never a problem. Never, ever, ever. Not once have I ever heard, but like before the war started, of any sort of like thing where someone came here and, I know one guy who bought an apartment due to becoming big in real estate. Actually, I know two people who did that. Or, they even working in the media. I've never heard of anyone having any sort of problem with that, but the war changed everything. We're sort of in a soft World War III right now, and trust me, the U.S. government is not particularly thrilled with anyone who's here, whether they're here in a sort of ideological media sphere like I am, or whether they're legit just like some person who keeps their yap shut and all they do is like teach English in a far-flung village. Whether it be me or them, you could all sort of become enemy of the state. I haven't heard of it happening yet, but it's one of these things that for people who move here that they need to consider, that it's kind of like you're moving to the other side, during a war. Like, what happens if all of a sudden one day, during the Cold War, you just up and appear in Leningrad, and you're like, I'm moving here forever. That would cause both a little bit of like a reaction from the communist side and from Washington. You see what I mean? I think we've just sort of gotten used to, after the fall of communism, that all of a sudden, Russia was sort of semi-conquered, or basically indirectly fully conquered, and it kind of didn't matter. It was just like another Thailand or where the expats like to hang out. Besides Thailand, I don't know, Vietnam or something like that, one of those kind of places. Although Vietnam's a bit more independent than Thailand ever was. I don't know, one of those like nice places that expats like to go to hang out, right? Mexico. And so that's changed now. So, you really don't know. But again, I've never heard of this happening yet, of someone being sort of punished in some way for owning real estate in Russia. But tomorrow's a new day. It's a new day. And now Anne's back. I just saw the little guy flick his hand. So I know you want to talk. The question is, can you? Do you have the technology, Anne? Do we have the resources? Oh, the microphone changed icons. Come on, Anne. What's wrong? Why are you muted? Or are you like so quiet that I can't hear you? No, my audio's on real loud right now. You there? Well, I'm not going to leave my audio on that loud, or else I will get shocked into oblivion when Windows makes some sort of noise. I'm sorry, Ann. You got something wrong there. Something's not connected, be it a computer microphone or a telephone or something. Something is missing. I hope it wasn't too important. Anyways, we're going to go to the written questions. This is a pretty good live stream. What is it, Saturday at 11:30 at night here? I should do this time slot more often. Let's see. Competition for jobs reduces wages. Yeah. Well, if competition for jobs reduces wages, Russia's extremely underemployed. Like, there's way more work here than there are people. So, unfortunately, Horatio, it's kind of the opposite. Let's see. Makes sense. Economics isn't just a game where you can edit the stats, someone says. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Some jokes from the moderators. I think what I have seen from Russia is that they want to stay. Oh, Anne is back. Anne, let's do this. Anne, this is your last chance. If I was Super Dave Osborne right now, Good comedian, great comedian, who's very good at when something's going wrong on a podcast, he attacks the guests. I'm not going to turn on Super Dave regime, but I will tell you that I'll not be bringing you back on if you can't get your microphone in order. What the heck is going on? If you're on a computer, Ann, if you're on a computer, how about this? Go look and try to see if there's some sort of like a little icon with, I think, 3 periods, like an ellipsis, I believe is the formal name for that. Click on that and see what your microphone is actually set to. Because your system there might actually be looking for a signal from a microphone that isn't working, or isn't even attached, or never was there in the first place. Because at the bottom of my screen, there's this little thing with the ellipsis, and you click on it, and you can go to settings, and I can see that my speakers are the right microphone. My microphone should be the right microphone. For the love of God, I hope it is. Yeah. So try that. Well, you know what, Ann? I'm just going to leave you on until I hear your voice. How about that? Anyways, let's see. What can I make? So something to hear about. We're carrying on about this topic in the chat about like making a business. So Chantel carries on, but they make it difficult to start a business for immigrants. Well, well, kind of, but maybe it could be easier. But as soon as you get permanent residency, you can be hired as a Russian. As soon as you get temporary residency, you can work a white salary job. So it's not too crazy hard. And furthermore, the government doesn't really look into what you're doing economically, so you can kind of start a business any day of the week. If I move there and I want to open a small business selling goods on the street or in front of a store, I have to have a Russian partner that then gets paid off my profit. Partner? You mean at a store or in front of it? Because people who still sell stuff like in front of a store, they just kind of sell it in front of the store. I'm not sure who they might have to pay, even just ask the store for permission. I don't know. Usually anyone who just sort of sells stuff from a stand tends to do the thing where they're just self-employed and there's very little legal hassle involved. Chantel wants to get revenge. Hello, Chantel. You do not like my comments, I think. Hello. Well,
hi, Tim.
Oh, my goodness. Whoa. You are way close to the microphone. Okay, hold on.
Let me back up a little bit from the computer.
Yeah,
that's
going to terrify people on YouTube. Then again, maybe they deserve it. They should all be watching on Rumble. Anyways, your question.
All right, sounds good. Well, so the business-wise, so I'm a small business owner here in the state of Texas, right? And I go here and get a license, and I can conduct business, collect taxes, and pay my taxes, and I'm fine.
Yeah.
Now, in Russia, what I'm hearing is that, like you said, nobody gets into your business too much until you make a certain amount of income, and then you're going to be flagged. But if I have like a POS, which is a point of sale little device that's going to collect income for me, say you come to me and you want to buy my product, then they're going to see that I'm collecting an income. It's going to go straight into my bank account.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, like, the business that I have here, I want to bring to Russia, but it's a small snack business. And I'm considering, like, I see street vendors in these little shacks in videos.
Yeah.
Or a little, just a little storefront where I can sell some products. Like if it was like, say, a snow cone business. Now, that's not what it is, but I'm just using it as an example. And people have like little trailers that they buy, and they can move them from location to location, or like a food truck.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, is that something that I can do under the radar over there, or is that going to be something that's going to flag me and they're going to say, hey, no, you can't do that here?
Well, anyways, what I can do is I'm going to send you an article if I can. Let's see if I'm smart enough to do that. And it's in a reply to one of the messages there. Use a translator for that, but I guess we can read it now together. But oh man, I'm gonna have to translate this into English. Когда делаешь свой проект, хочешь что-то рядом довести, например, собрать документы и запуск для фудтрака требуется такой же для сценария, кроме тех, кто еще относится к помещению. Сначала нужно регистрироваться в качестве IP или ООО. Okay, so I guess, oh boy, how am I going to translate this into English in a way that actually... Alright, I guess let's talk about this now, why not? Let's live the rock and roll lifestyle, except I'm going to mute you because I'm hearing weird, bizarre noises in the background. So we're going to mute you. Did I mute myself, or did I mute you? I think I muted you, thank goodness, okay. So, that actually worked out. Not thank goodness that I muted you because you're a bad person, but because it actually worked. So let's see. This website says, gather documents for the startup and prepare the food truck for opening. A food truck requires the same list of documents as a stationary establishment, except for those relating to the premises. First, you need to register as a sole, as an IP, as an individual entrepreneurship, or as an LLC, which is called or in Russian. IP is very easy. You can do it in 24 hours. Foreign people are allowed to open an IP. I believe they can do it with permanent residency. Yeah. So, let's go, it says. Join... Whoa. Oh, you're still on. Now I can hear you, Anne. Are you here?
Yes.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I had to
okay,
restart
Anne,
everything.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna temporarily now that you're back and ready for action, I will unmute you soon because we already have a big question and I can't go back and forth. It'll ruin the program. No one has that level of RAM in their mind. So let's see business catering. To register an individual entrepreneurship, you need an application for state registration of an individual as an IE. A copy of the passport of the citizen of the Russian Federation, a document confirming payment of state duty. If you register the business not electronically, register the frickin' thing electronically. The bank does all the work. Documents for opening a food truck. What kind of documents? Notification from Rospotrebnadzor about the start of activity. Contract for waste removal. Contract for water supply. Yeah, there's a bunch of BS involved in this. Yeah. So, sanitary books to staff. So it's basically like the process of opening a restaurant, which is kind of a pain. If I were you, I would not do that. I would open some kind of stand. I think that takes a lot less. Or just do everything legally like everyone does. That's usually the easiest. Because trust me, Babushka, who's selling the pies and stuff by the side of the road, isn't registering any of this bullshit. Now, one thing that's very important, again, I sent you the link so you can look that up. That's actually kind of an interesting link about food trucks. You know what? I'm going to actually save this link, and maybe I'll write a bit about it later. No, that's not it. That was not it at all. So anyways, that's going to be a massive pain in the butt, getting a food truck going, but definitely not the end of the world. But what you can do is something you have to understand about what the government sees and what they don't see. Is there is a sort of mysterious phenomenon again in Russia that we just talked about, which is the whole thing of being sort of like self-employed. Now, when you're sort of self-employed, there's a lot of ways where you can sort of cook the books. But essentially, every time you make a sale, you can use apps to sort of record that sale. If you set up your bank account with Tinkoff and they do it right, which sometimes takes a while, they'll basically automatically, every sale you make to like a particular card will automatically go to the government. You'll automatically pay immediately 4% taxes on it, and you'll never even have to think about it. Okay, that's a really awesome way to do stuff. But the main thing is that with that, so the government does find out about every sale, but first off, not sales in cash. They're still mysterious. And you don't really need like a card. You don't need like a credit card terminal because in Russia, money transfers to your telephone number or to a card are so common that for especially those like little time people who sell stuff, that's vastly more common. So Babushka does not have a thing where you can put your card down and make like a credit card purchase. What she'll have is she'll have the number of a Sparebank card. So you'll tell her, hey, I want to get 3 pigs in a blanket, ma'am. And she'll be like, that costs 150 rubles. And you'll be like, cool. And you send 150 rubles to her Sparebank account or whatever bank account. When you get the screen on your telephone that says it was successful, you turn the phone around and show her that 150 rubles was sent to that person, and you take your pigs in a blanket and enjoy them. Okay? So that's really the way that most people run these sort of teeny tiny small businesses. So let's take a look. Можно через самозанятость продать еду. So here we go. Oh, okay. Федеральный закон не запрещает самозанятым производить и продавать пищевую продукцию при условии, что она произведена самостоятельно с соблюдением определенных норм. As long as you make the food yourselves, you can sell it as part of the program of being self-employed. No bureaucracy required other than having the self-employed status. That takes 1 day at the bank. That's it. Of course, you are probably going to need to have permanent residency for that, but that is absolutely freaking amazing. That is so good. That is super sexy. So anyways, and then I'll show that. Boom. So Chantel, I just sent you that article, which you can also translate. That is absolutely amazing, and that is how Babushka does it. Because as long as she makes the food herself, all of it, then she can put it down as part of her her self-employed status. And remember, because Chantel, you're married, if you guys wanted to be a little bit more creative, you could both be self-employed, and you could be basically your account could be on Mondays, your husband's account could be on Tuesdays, and that essentially expands your total income margin to be bigger. You could even do that with your adult children as well, if they would be willing to do that. So there's ways to game the system to beat the limit. Let's see. Maximum самозанятость 2023. It's still 2.4 million rubles a year. Not that much. I cannot wait till it gets bigger. Let's bring it on. Come on, government. Let's raise the roof on that 2.4 million. Let's get serious here. None of this clowning around crap. Anyways, but still 2.4 million means something like 200,000 rubles a month, which if you combine that, which for one person is considered sort of a middle class income, and if you and your husband were able to both make about 200,000 rubles a month, well, that's already the kind of income that major media figures make. So there you go. Rock and roll. You'll need a location, though. Location is a park bench. A location is a tray. A location is trying to make a deal with whoever controls the train station. That's organic. So anyways, Anne wanted to talk, and Anne fixed her microphone problems. So Anne, you're up. If you're still listening, you're up, and we're ready to rock and roll.
Okay. Is it coming through now?
It's coming through
Tim?
Brilliantly.
Unbelievable. Okay, I'm sorry. I missed so much of the show. But it's always great to catch them. So it may fit, may not fit. You decide. But two things I wanted to say. One, in terms of the self-determination issue. This is just natural. There's a book actually written, Future Shock, an issue back in the 70s, one in the 80s. But it predicted this. It said the time would come when the rate of change would be so much that people will turn back to their own cultures, religions, and languages. And I really think that's what we're seeing around the world. And it's perfectly normal. You know, the kids have grown up, and I just wish people would realize that everyone does have a right to their own cultures and do not feel guilty about it, and certainly don't cause wars over it. then I wanted to ask you something. You said something fascinating, that the monarchy didn't anticipate the 1917 revolution to be successful. I would love your insights or anyone else's insights on the call as to what do they feel were the tactics or the elements that really allowed that to happen. I mean, it was a small percentage. Yeah, so I'd love to know that.
Oh, okay. Well, we can talk about that real quick. I'm here, you're here. Maybe that'll be interesting for someone. So why do Russians think the Russian Revolution happened? Because the Tsar was too soft. A lot of times people, especially the Western media, they have a very interesting interpretation of Russian history that essentially the real rough times, let's put it this way, in terms of repressiveness in Russia were really like the last 2 years of the 19 teens, and then especially the 1920s. And in a lot of ways, Russia is portrayed as being that level of repression through the whole thing, all the way back through Ivan the Fourth and, who before that, what was the guy, the Big Nest? Oh, I can't remember. Was it Vasily the Big Nest? I can never remember, but it doesn't matter. Oleg the Big Nest, one of the very early Tsars, and all the way back to Rurik, I guess, right? So that's kind of how they portray history, that it's always been like that. And that's really unfortunate because in a lot of ways, the Tsar was actually the Tsars near the end of the Russian Empire before the Revolution. So your Alexander III, your Nicholas II, those guys were actually pretty soft on people by the standards of their day. And one of the major beliefs, and one of the reasons why also the Bolsheviks were brutal, is not just because they were fanatical, was because they sort of understood that one of the reasons they got away with the revolution is because the Tsar didn't kill them all. I believe he did kill Lenin's brother, and that was one of the things that made Lenin very motivated. But a lot of people related to like communism and some sort of anti-government activity were all just kind of let go over and over again, including Joseph Stalin, for example, right? Or if you look at the books, as the unofficial count of Chekhov County here, I can tell you that Chekhov was also famous because he traveled the hard way, remember the 1800s way, all the way to Sakhalin Island, where he wrote about a lot of the people who were sort of imprisoned there, be they political prisoners or other kind of prisoners. And life conditions weren't that great, but it wasn't like this death camp of doom or any of that stuff. In fact, generally, most people who went to jail survived it and came back. So again, one of the main factors that you'll never hear about in the West is that Russians believe that it was because the Tsars were actually very soft on people and they let everybody go. And they really didn't think that the communists would ever amount to anything. So it's kind of like, you stupid punk teenagers, what are you going to do? So that's issue number one. Issue number two that we kind of talked about earlier is good old-fashioned financing. There are a lot of communist activists throughout, all over the world, especially, the early part of the 20th century, late 1800s, a lot of that. Well, they got to live on something. Somebody was feeding them. They were getting money from somewhere, this whole idea that they were like little Robin Hoods that would just sort of go around and maybe steal a loaf of bread to continue their activities was BS. Someone was financing them. I mean, look at Lenin. Lenin was able to, essentially, he was almost shipped back to Russia from where? Germany, like a biological weapon in 1917 to cause chaos. Lenin lived very well, not very proletarian when he was exiled or self-exiled. I don't remember that. Sort of in the earlier phases of World War I or even before that. He also spent a lot of time in exile or sort of semi-exile in kind of the around the part of Finland that was part of the Russian Empire for a while, but was kind of semi-independent and then broke away and is now Finland today. So there was basically somebody was supporting them from the West. Definitely someone. There were definitely some people who were very with money and resources who really wanted to support this kind of thinking. Just like in a lot of ways, they're doing it today with all the lovely Trotskyites that prance about the Democratic Party there in America. So Those are sort of two reasons that Russians attribute to the revolution. Reason number 3 is that if it wasn't for the fact that the Tsar abdicated the throne to Kerensky, then it probably would have never happened, because, the Kerensky government, if there were problems with Nicholas II, the Kerensky government just managed everything like pure feces. Absolute failure on all fronts. And so, yeah, so those might be 3 reasons why the Russian Revolution happened there. So, anyways, we're going to look at some more, what are they even called? Messages? Comments? Tim would like to ask whether Russia has changed for the better over the past 15 years. Absolutely. I would say, like, if you could sort of culminate all the changes that have happened in the last 15 years, I would say they're maybe 80 to 90% positive. Russia's definitely amazingly changed in absolutely the right directions overall. Of course, nothing is perfect and no one's perfect, but yeah, definitely. And especially for people here who are especially Americans and you've lived here. Well, ask other people. If you can find some other people who are sort of have a big fat mouth like I do, who've been here a long time, ask them whether they feel that Russia's been improving. Especially compared to the United States, where it's almost been like for my entire lifetime, born in the early 80s, I feel like, after we won the Cold War, America was just sort of like, I mean, obviously, we kind of turned into a global empire and we started to invest in a global empire, but it feels like America was like, awesome, we won the Cold War, let's just shoot ourselves in the foot over and over again. And in Russia, it's kind of the opposite. Can't sit on a bench in winter. Madam, if we want to sell food outside in winter in Russia, there's a lot of people who are standing outside. So, yeah. If you want to talk about renting like a 2 meter by 3 meter space, then you already have to sort of open up like a restaurant, and that's different. So that is different, and that's one of the things about the American village, because if you own the land, and you apparently, due to the law we just researched right now, and you cook the food yourself on your own land, you don't have to register anything. Interesting. And especially if we can attract people to the American village as some kind of tourists. Ooh. Fun. And remember, if anyone wants to raise their hand and call into the program, use the raise your hand function, and you can do so. There's way too many people listening. Thank you. So anyways, let's see. Tell us new info on the village. There's not too much. So I guess if no one is going to raise their hand and call in, then we'll end on American Village info. I thought I maybe had more to talk about with Putin's Valdai speech, but I kind of blazed through that in, I think, 20 minutes. So maybe I had less to talk about it than I thought. In the future, I kind of want to cover a little bit more about the action of what's happening on the war front. But for today, it was Valdai, because I already knew exactly what I wanted to say. As soon as Joaquin posted that, I was like, this is the live stream for tonight. So anyways, about the American village, the good news is that we found the investor. I may have mentioned that. Maybe I didn't, but we have him. So we've got the investor, who is also the company that's going to build the American village now. Obviously, those things kind of tie in. So we found someone to do it. Now we're just kind of tying up some of the last ends. I introduced the investor and the architect essentially to the government, the people who are going to change the zoning and do the subdividing of all this and give the final stamps, provide the electricity and all that, the government. Because remember, no matter what people write, this is a commercial project. This is a private sector project. It is exactly the same as doing a development in the United States. You can't do it without the government on some level because they won't let you, but it is not a governmental project. So I introduced, again, the investor and chief construction company owner to them, as well as the architect. Everyone is happy. We're now essentially getting close to like the final countdown to when they actually change the status of the village. Again, like I said earlier, we really wanted to do this as like an NGO thing and try to use that sort of loophole of making this a socially significant project. That has not worked out. The socially significant project status is mysterious and unattainable. So we're going to probably just open up a business, which should be ready in the next few days. Kind of like opening up the businesses we just talked about on this live stream. And that'll be important for some of the documentation, but ultimately, this is really a matter of just the government finally getting this done. The investor who agreed and is going to pay off all those big costs to get this baby lined up. And then we have to wait till spring, and then in spring we can start construction. Of course, probably 1 month before the official start date, maybe even 2 months, that's when we're going to have to start collecting that cash. Because we're going to need that to actually start, the building process. And that's when I'll probably need the help of someone, because we'll probably need to have a website for this. Most real estate projects in Russia have a website, but you have no idea how much I don't want to do that. I know one guy who could probably do it, but it's like, a lot of this little stuff I have to kind of pay for out of pocket, and I haven't really gotten much of the money back from that. Thank you for the people who make donations. By the way, if you want to help me out with making a website for this, I'm definitely going to need a donation or two, because I'm not going to ask my one friend who could do it. I'm not going to ask him to do it for free. That's ridiculous. I'd rather just have it be like a constantly updated PDF file than be like, dude, make me an entire website for free, even though you have kids and you have your own career and you're really busy and you travel a lot. Please. No, that's not happening. Where is my Boosty? Boosty, baby. Boosty. Oh, my page, Boosty. Okay. So anyways, we're going to put this. It is donate, please. Donate, baby. On the main thing. So there's a donate link. It's on the main Tim Kirby Hardcore Russia. If you guys could donate, that would really help with the whole building a website thing. But it's looking good. The only thing is if the investor for some reason changes his mind. Yasmin, I see you have your hand up. We'll get to you. The only thing that would be really damaging or horrible would be as if the main investor changed his mind. But considering he's also working on the Northern American village with Father Joseph, I don't think that's going to happen. He seems to be a man of faith and a man of patriotism and the desire to help. And he definitely has the finances to help when you own a giant construction company. You probably saw on the American Village Telegram channel that, we showed some of the buildings that they made, but those are one-off buildings. Obviously, what we're going to do is going to be made by the architect. I mentioned there, but it bears repeating that all of the home designs that come from the architect, there will be the little home, the medium home, and then the big home. All of them can be done as either stick frame, which is cheaper and faster, or they can be done with cinder block, and the construction company recommended to do a brick facade. So cinder block on the inside, bricks on the outside as a more expensive and maybe more effective option. And I guess this will all go on sale with maybe 1 or 2 months before the start date, because we need that capital, baby, to get this thing built for you to buy your house in Russia, which will, although with the war on, the prices are definitely kind of going up there, but it's still going to be way cheaper than a Moscow apartment. I'll tell you that much. It'll be a lot more pleasant, and it'll be yours. So so that's kind of what the American Village is looking like. Did anyone else have any questions about the American Village? If so, write them real quick or raise your hand. And Yasmin wants to talk. Oh, Chantel asked. So hold on, Yasmin. Chantel asked the question about the American Village. So let's allow her to have a follow-up. That makes more sense to me. Hello?
Oh, sorry, I had to unmute myself.
It's okay.
That's something you have to tell everybody, is that once they are chosen to speak, that the button in the middle that they need to hit the unmute.
Oh,
for
that's
those
how that
who
works.
don't.
See, I don't call into other people's shows, really. I called into Joaquin 2 times. So, okay, I'll tell people that next time. All right.
So the same spot that they hit to ask to talk to you, it'll go blue and it says unmute, and that's when they need to push the button.
One thing,
unmute.
I'll tell you this much. So I don't lie to you, because I don't like to be a liar. I'm a very forgetful person, so I want to do this, but you might have to remind me 2 or 3 times before I build the habit, okay?
No problem.
All right, but did you have some other question asked about the American Village? Did I actually answer or more or less give you the news you wanted, or is that missing huge chunks of information?
No, I have a question.
Sure.
So my husband wants to build his own home, and I think that there are other people that probably do as well. I'm not sure, but I think so. And I was wondering, I know it might be kind of difficult to arrange this kind of a scenario, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Say that 2 or 3 families come at the same time and need to build a home. Wouldn't it be a good idea to put a list together of people who want to build their own home and can help and assist each other, like the Amish do, or many other communities do, that kind of a thing?
Here's the thing about this. You don't know what you're getting into. Even if you have pretty good building experience in the United States, you're going to come here. And so first off, you probably don't have a vehicle. Number one. Okay? So here, let's this is phase number 1. I got to mute you because again, I just heard a thud. I'll let you back on when I'm done with this. So imagine you're here. No vehicle. Probably. Number 2. There are some like big box like DIY stores, but they of course tend to be a little bit more pricey and kind of far away, and you're going to have to fight the traffic and all this, that, and the other. So, you know, the whole like, I'm going to drive down to Lowe's or Home Depot, load up a Ford F-150 and get going on this is a little bit different. Here comes the next thing. You don't speak the language. And the thing is that translating, again, a lot of the things that are related to like building a house are not super easy to translate, nor do the translators do a really good job on them. So, for example, if you put the word screw into the, as in not the naughty screw, but the screw is in the object, into a translator, it's probably going to be something in Russian that's not what you think it is. Okay? It's probably going to be translated wrong. So you're going to go to a hardware store. You're going to be trying to buy enough materials to build, like, let's just say the foundation. How are you, when you don't speak Russian, going to order all this wood, all the proper things to put together, you know, whether it be a mold release or an oil to put on this, what's it's called, the frame where you pour the concrete for the foundation, like all this stuff, you know, it's just going to be a nightmare. I just don't know, like with some people, I kind of get it. I do. I kind of get what you're saying, that there's something adventurous about this, but then where are you going to live? How are you going to get from some rental apartment always to the village then every day? You also just mentioned that you need to work. Well, you can either work or you can build. You see what I mean? They kind of fight each other. So, I mean, you're also going to be kind of really not using your money effectively, because essentially then it's going to work out being way more expensive. And the other thing is, the way things are done in the United States, you can do stuff similar here. Like, there is stick frame construction here. But in America, people don't do the strip foundation thing. You know, they don't usually lay that out. I mean, you could do maybe a slab, but the land we're on is on kind of a gentle slope, and a lot of water is going to come through in spring when the snow melts. Like, unless you're someone who you know, this is someone who's built houses their entire life, and they're ready to go nuts and have everything that they know be turned topsy-turvy. Everything, be it their their speed square, circular saw, hammer, nails, tool belt, ruler, having everything have some sort of mysterious translation. Another thing that doesn't translate very well, ruler. That does not translate in the translators very well. You'll ask someone for a ruler at the hardware store, and they're going to be looking at you like, what do you want from me? It is going to be a living nightmare. So Chantel, are you ready for that nightmare? Because if you try to build an American-style basement, again, unless someone who has like 10 plus years of contractor experience, and even then, everything here is different. You know, I don't know how. How are you going to hire a guy with a JCB to come out and dig you a basement? You know what I mean? Like, how are you even going to do it?
Yeah, no, that's some really good points there because you'd have to spend a lot just to make yourself readily available to do the work.
Well, yeah. Well,
That
that's the thing. And then, so what are you going to do? Live out in a tent or something? Or I guess, like I said, you could rent an apartment, but it's not going to be walking distance. Because again, everyone told me they want to live out in the village. They want this rural lifestyle. Well, the rural lifestyle means that there's not a lot of places for rent, especially within walking distance.
yeah, yeah, that makes
Yeah, I
makes
mean,
a lot of sense. When
and the other thing too is
that,
remember, say you need to do your foundation. You're going to have to order, I don't know, how many bags of concrete. I don't know, 200 or something. I'm sorry, I don't really know. But let's just say you're going to be buying dozens upon dozens of bags of concrete. First off, you're going to have to try to find the phone number for that, which requires you to speak Russian. You're going to get the call. The guy who answers the phone is going to be from Armenia. So not only does he not speak English and you not speak Russian, but he doesn't even speak Russian as a native language either. So it's not going to be like,
Right.
Здравствуйте, я хочу помогать вам добить прекрасное количество бетона. Скажите, сколько 40-килограммовые мешки вы хотите? He's not going to talk like that. He's going to talk like, так столько ты хочешь там? М300, да? Да, М300. Ты хочешь М300, да? Мы все сделаем. Привезем. А куда-то? That's the guy who's going to be on the other end of the line. And he's gonna take your as soon as he hears that English accent, he's gonna be like, "There's so much money to steal. I steal all of it from them. They are suckers." You see what I mean? Like, why would you want to do that? You're just creating a nightmare for yourself because of some sort of romanticism. Now, your idea about selling food by the street in order to make money, that's super realistic, and that is something you can definitely do. About building your own house, I mean, I guess you can, but it's gonna be an adventure. It's gonna
Do you
be
think
an
that-
adventure.
Do you think that kind of business would do well in Serpukhov because that's not as far as Moscow, or what do you
It
think?
depends how many people walk by. You know, it
Yeah.
also depends on your social media skills. I mean, if you can turn it into something like cute and trendy and all that, that'll be awesome. Anyways, I'm gonna let you go, Chantel. The Boz is here, and we cannot ignore him. The Boz is here, and maybe he has something to say about building your own home, small businesses in Russia. And then we'll get to Yasmin, who I just sort of shoved into the basement like a scoundrel. The Boz, baby. We'll click on, as Chantel said, click on the button that's like below your name for you to speak, to allow your own self to speak, to unmute yourself. It should be near the bottom of your screen. Boz, unmute yourself. Probably at the bottom of your screen. Come on. No. Oh, sorry, Boz. You've lost your turn. Yasmin, you wanted to talk? And if the Boz can figure out what's the problem with his microphone,
Hello.
he'll talk, and then I'm going to go. I'm already
Hello.
a sleepy monkey. Oh, no, the Boz is here. Sorry, Yasmin. Boz, you're here.
Yeah.
Hello. I can
Real quick, just so your followers understand. So we live in Moscow, and we have property about 100 kilometers from Moscow,
Yeah.
and my wife is Russian. Bilingual. What we had to do, there's no way we could. First of all, we thought of renting a flat in the nearby village where our property is, and nothing. We couldn't find even a house to rent.
Yeah.
So we hired an architect who lives 5 minutes from our property, and signed a contract with him. And what he does is he oversees the whole. Every day he goes, not every day. He goes for every new project that they're starting. But he'll stop by, because there's no way we can build. First of all, my wife is bilingual, and let me tell you, Tim is absolutely right. She can't even translate. A lot of times we have to talk with my brother-in-law, his wife's, my sister's husband, my wife's sister's husband, right? Because she can't even translate a lot of things that the builder and the architect talk to her about.
Oh, yeah, because there are all these specific terms, and a lot of them they're actually words from German, which is kind of weird, but you kind of makes sense. And some of them are from, like, pre-medieval times. because
Yeah,
construction is that old of a concept that it's all this frickin', medieval terminology that is lost to time.
right. Right. So the only thing there are a few options. Either if you're lucky to find a flat near the property where you're building, that would be great. We couldn't do that. We couldn't find it. Or you can hire an architect like we did, and he will oversee it and take pictures and make sure everything, is being done correctly. But he uses his own builders, Yeah. Or you can, buy, like, we bought a really beautiful shed. It's so nice, grandma's like, Jesus, we can stay in there when we come visit, but maybe you could buy a shed and put a wood burning stove and live on the property and do it that way, but
Yeah.
if you want to build yourself, you got to think. I was a builder for 15 years. I was a union carpenter on Long Island in New York City, and I also did my own work. But let me tell you, if you're going to come here and try to do it yourself, man, I wouldn't, and I don't even have all the tools. Like, you need to have all the equipment.
The first time you went to maybe a big box hardware store in Russia, even as someone with professional carpentry experience, was it bothersome, the language difference?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm going to tell you right now, I learned, I put my foot in my mouth too many times trying to use a translator with my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it doesn't work. I mean, DeepL is like, I think, one of the best translators out there.
Yeah.
But no, I understand the people that are coming here and what they have in their head and how they want to live and what they want to do. But when it comes to building, guys, it's no joke, because I went to the building materials place like 2 weeks ago just to get a temporary fence to put up in the front.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We fenced the property, but we left the part open in front for trucks to come in and out.
Yeah.
If I didn't have my sister-in-law with me, forget about it. Just to get that, because the guy who was helping me was not from Russia, and it was like, so I don't know. If you have the money, I would possibly look for an architect in the neighborhood, like where you're building, and have them oversee the project so you can work.
How about this, boss? For anyone who's listening, this is something I definitely don't see any reason to change my mind over, is since we have a construction company that's dedicated to the project now, and we have an architect who's dedicated to the project now, if someone wants to, they can pay the architect. But again, people tell me that they're coming to Russia and they have the limited resources and they want to build a life in Russia, and we don't have that many people who are in this like multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars range, right? And the thing is, when I think of that it's like, would I want to pay then $2,000, $2,500 of my limited resources to get a custom home design when I'm kind of biting the cost personally for the architect to draw these three houses? I'm paying for that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So far, I'm just kind of saving you maybe anywhere from 100 to 200,000 rubles on the cost of this thing out of my own pocket. So it's kind of like, why would you want to do that? Again, you get into this thing where people don't understand that the more complicated something gets, the slower it's going to be. Because if you're here and you want to move into that house, if you want to get into your McMansion where the roofs have 55 million bazillion angles, that all takes time.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a carpenter. What takes more time, doing a McMansion roof or doing the roof of like a ranch style home?
Right. No, I understand what you're saying, but listen, guys, I just want your listeners to understand that, they're coming here from another country. I'm already settled. I'm here 11 years. I live in the city. Right. And it's still, for 100 kilometers from the city, for us to build just a dacha or a country house, 100 square meters, it's still so very difficult for us.
Yeah.
And my wife is Russian. Right. She's a translator. She's an interpreter. She's a teacher. Right. She's bilingual. 17 years she lived in America. I mean, she knows both languages, and she's still. So you have to really think. And let me tell you, every penny we spent on the architect, it's worth it. But you know what? It's his builder. We're in a group together on Telegram.
Yeah.
And There is nothing. A truck came to deliver wood. The builder's like, nope. The architect, 5 minutes from the property drove over, told him to take the wood back and bring new wood.
This is crowned up or whatever. Like,
well, the type of fence we put up, we didn't want to go with a metal fence. We wanted to go with a nice, nice fence. We're not too worried about, privacy, like where people can't. I don't like those metal fences that they're putting up, we wanted more like a
Well, we'll have
nice
to agree to
wooden...
disagree on that one, man. I'm a huge advocate of the gigantic metal fence, but that's me.
Yeah, no, I don't want to feel like I live in a compound, man. I'm in the village. I want to be in nature. I want to be able to see through my fences. I want to see, I don't want to be looking like I'm looking at a metal. So anyway, but this is what I'm letting you guys know, that the architect's 5 minutes from my house. The delivery came. I'm an hour and 15 by an express train, but it's still a 2-hour trip, right?
Yeah.
Door to door. Now, right on the spot, the builder called the architect. Guy drove over in 5 minutes, looked at the wood, went through it and said, nope, sent it back and got another delivery. So I can sleep at night. It's worth every penny. It really is. But with the American Village, Tim, you have the, right? You have everyone. You have the builder, you have the architect. Well, so I just joined the chat. What are people concerned about? I don't.
In terms of
like,
what? Concerned about in terms of construct? What?
Yeah, like building. Are they worried? Like, do they want to be there to watch it, or?
Well, Chantel was just mentioning that her and some other people have expressed an interest in trying to build their own home themselves on the land and thinking about that. And I don't know. Like, I really am a big advocate for freedom, but at the same time, it's like, man, I don't. The thing is okay. Here's the thing: the village has to get built. There has to be this like critical mass of people who all sort of live together who have a similar interest, so they can sort of all help each other out. Otherwise, you're essentially just kind of buying a house that's far away from Moscow, and you're just living alone. Okay, and that kind of defeats the purpose. And I know how human beings are. And if a lot of people do this thing where they're like, okay, I'll get the land and then I'll build the house myself, those houses are never going to get built.
No,
it's just the land's just going to sit there empty, and it's going to defeat the whole purpose of the project. So I think that maybe the compromise position, like I just mentioned, would be then having our architect, who's a pretty creative guy. He loves creativity. He'd be happy if you want to have a gigantic house with the most complex roof that's ever been created in history. He'll draw it up for you with a smile on his face, right? You got to pay him for it, and then the construction company, they can make it. But like, I don't know. It could really kill the project and kill it for everyone then, not just for me, but like for the whole idea. If we get in this whole thing of like, I'll give you this piece of land and then eventually one day I'll do something with it. It's like, no.
Listen, everyone has, the freedom to do what they want and stuff. But I'm 54 years old, man, and I'm full of wisdom. Let me tell you something. You don't want a big house because the house is going to own you. If you're coming here to live a better life, an easier life, a simpler life, just keep it simple.
No.
Just keep the house simple.
Yeah, what I agree, man. And that's why our plans are very simple for these houses, because also
houses have less problems. The plans. I love the plans, Tim. That you the medium one. I would do that in a heartbeat.
I'm gonna see if it works out. I'm gonna try to reserve a medium one for myself if it works out. But I kind of am thinking the way the numbers are looking, that might not even happen. So it might have to just do the Chekhov mansion a little bit bigger. But we'll see. Maybe things will work out better than I think they will. But anyways, man,
Yeah, I'll let you go. Yeah, I'll let you go.
Thank you. Thanks for chiming in. Always appreciate the expert opinion. And Yasmin, you wanted to talk. Yasmin, you're last. I'm running out of steam. I only have about 90 minutes of talk in me, and we're at 90 minutes. Hello, Yasmin. Again, you want to talk?
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So I'll ask the question. My impression from looking at Russia through the videos is that, especially in the cities, the market differences, that seems to be like a high trust society, low crime, etc. But then I'm also hearing from perhaps accounts from you and several others that it seems to be scam city. So which one is kind of true?
What do you mean by high trust society? What is that?
Well, like very low levels of crime, both like physical as well as vandalism and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, others is like, so for example, if you drop me somewhere in the US, even if I don't know anyone, it would be easy for me to find a trustworthy lawyer, a trustworthy accountant based on like reviews and kind of a couple of calls and stuff. Like I wouldn't get the sense that even though I'm not from the area and maybe if I speak with an accent that like everybody would be out to scam me. So what's the sort of level of alert you have to be
okay.
physical
So,
as well as
okay, so we have
interacting with the laptop class?
Okay, so we have here this concept of there's a high trust society and a low trust society, but that somehow that's linked to crime. The problem is I don't think that works quite for Russia, because in Russia, the idea of like petty crime, like physically stealing something, is disgusting to people. Okay, like. You know, there's this thing like in America, like sometimes teenagers shoplift and you laugh about it later. Like in Russia, that's so absolutely low. That's like, oh man, I'm trying to think of something that I can say that isn't too over the line. Oh boy. I don't know what quite to compare it to. Something really freaking low. Like, I don't know, the I guess having sex with your cousin. Like that's kind of like how Russians see petty crime. But crimes of the mind, crimes of con artistry where you're using your mind and not your hands, those are the cool crimes. You see what I mean? So it's kind of a very much of a stigma where Russians find like thievery to be just disgusting. That's one of the reasons why there's that old joke in Russia. The Russian legal system is perfectly fair. You kill 2 people, you go to jail for 2 years. Steal 3 chickens, go to jail for 3. It's kind of based on that logic. And yeah, so like petty theft is not that petty here. It is brutally punished. So that's kind of a cultural thing. But yeah, Russia is not a place. People here do not trust each other at all. There is zero trust. You really should never operate in Russia. This again goes back to that post I just did today, that I'm sorry if it came across as harsh, but with the whole like iSpring wanting to like have people go work there, I broke down that like, you have to, people here, you have to be aggressive with them. You here have to go get them. Like, you can't just sit and expect people to answer you. You really, in Russia, you can't expect anything to ever be done ever. Whether you're paying for it or not paying for it, you have to really hound people and be aggressive and this, that, and the other. Russian society, Russians don't understand their own society very well, in my opinion. And they always talk about the Russians are aggressive and that it's a bad thing. But Russian society can't function if you're not aggressive. If you're not aggressive, you can't do anything here. You certainly, from a male standpoint, you can't be married to a Russian woman if you don't have some minimum level of aggression to deal with her. You can't, get your kids through school. You can't get any of your immigration documents unless you come in and you are like, really sort of in your face kind of person, then you're going to have a real tough time here. Because you, just like what the boss said about wood gets delivered, the wood is complete shit. You paid maybe a few $1,000s for this wood, it's complete shit. What if the architect wasn't aggressive? He would have just been like, okay, well, here's the wood. I mean, it's not very good, but I don't know, maybe we can make it work. Where I'm sure the architect was actually like, you motherfucker, what the fuck is this shit? Why the fuck are you doing this? Get this shit the fuck out of here. That's essentially the way that Russia works. If you get conned, it's your fault. If you don't have the proper level of aggression to deal with society, it's your fault. Okay? So that's just one of the things about living here. So this example, this thing you mentioned of some sort of like high trust society versus crime, that doesn't apply to Russia. That's sort of like a very Western way of looking at things, not the way that things are here. And furthermore, kind of screwing over people isn't really much of a crime. Yeah, you were saying?
So a quick follow-up, like another or one follow-up to this is like, for example, if you hire an accountant or if you hire a lawyer, if you hire somebody that you trust something sensitive with, that is understood that they should have a fiduciary duty on you and like, let's say not look in your accounts and make side deals or make calls or stuff like that. Like, what about that laptop class trust?
Wait, I'm lost here. Could you repeat that? I didn't understand it all. I'm sorry.
Okay, like for example, if I want to hire an accountant in the US, it would be pretty understandable that like if I reveal all my income and all of my most sensitive data to them, they're not gonna like turn around to their cousin and to reveal something or try to do side deals or stuff like that. Like, how does are the laptop
people here
class
don't do
like
that because
professional
no one cares.
people?
No one cares about privacy in Russia at all. Like, it's not an issue. It'll never come up.
But
like, no one cares.
Not from the government. I meant as fear from the people you interact with.
Well, that's why. Well, one of the reasons is no, people won't blackmail you because blackmail isn't cool. Blackmail is really kind of low. That's not going to happen. People here wouldn't do that. But because also generally most people who do that, if the government starts an investigation, they'll get them too. That's part of it. But like, you really should only again, in America, an anonymous person interacts with an anonymous person and they expect money for service, and that service is rendered based on the understanding or contract they have between them. In Russia, you have to build a relationship with this person. If you want a result out of this person, you have to have a relationship with them. So what you should do is you should try to maybe, if you were to come here and you were to start to need an accountant, you'd want to talk to someone you know who knows an accountant. They're going to introduce you. You're going to schmooze. You're going to be like, look, my buddy Yusuf here said that you're one heck of an accountant. So basically, Yusuf is kind of vouching for you. It's like that. It's like a medieval court or something. That's how it all works here.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah. Trust me, if you ever just call like some random person from some random website to do something for you, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. And anyways, yeah. So it looks like that is the end of the line. Maybe there's some written questions. I'll check those out. Let's see. Something. I don't know what's going on with that. Trust me, guys, building a homestead while you're trying to work a full-time job, very demoralizing, says John. Add that you're in a foreign country, trying to order materials by picture. I can only imagine. Thank you, John, for, excuse me, my jaw got out of alignment. Thank you, John, for supporting my position. When you control the printing press and everyone else, no. Best thing to do probably is to have a house built so you can arrive there and have a place to live and work. That's what we're trying to do with the American Village, because as soon as we get the money, we can start the building. Then buy some land and build your dream house. Well, that's a little contradictory there, but yeah. Yeah, that's the whole thing about the American Village. You already sort of have a place to be, a place you'd want to be. Then you could sell your property to another expat or make it easier for them. That's another thing you can do later down the line, but you'll have to wait 5 years. You don't have to pay taxes on it. I guess if you can reach... Okay, so it looks like that's all for tonight. Anyways, guys, we had quite the live stream. I'm shocked. Thank you very much for being with me. Here we go. It's going to be Tim Kirby Russia signing out.